All right, it is 7 o'clock. Time to call this meeting to order. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clement, if you lead us in tonight's opening prayer.
Dear God, grant us wisdom and patience as we embark on tonight's journey. Assist us in making the correct decisions for the city of Nelsonville. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, call the roll, ma'am.
Mr. Clement?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Childs?
Here.
Mr. Duffy?
Here.
Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Booth?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to change the agenda to go to executive session per ORC 121-22 for personnel and legal matters. So moved. Inviting in Mr. Toy and Mr. Sappington. And you want to bring in also Mr. Kirk? Oh, yes, Mr. Toy too.
Mr. Taylor?
Who's Mr. McCartney? Are going to be our possible new prosecutor. Who wants you to meet him? Okay. Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Motion. Let's do it then. Let's amend the motion to go into executive session. So moved. Per
Oh,
ORC.
okay.
Per ORC 121-22, legal and personnel matters. The time is 7:02. So moved.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes. All right, we're good. All right, motion to come out of the executive session. It is 8:09. So moved. Second.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes. The minutes from the last regular meeting, the clerk will have those out later this week. They did not come
Well,
through.
they're actually there now, but it was-
Are they? Okay. We'll vote on those at the next meeting. We're off to citizens' comments. Would like to go. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Glenda Tingle, and I live at 73 East Franklin Street in Nelsonville, Ohio. As you can imagine, given the resignation of Mr. Frank and some information that has come to light recently about other things that have affected our community, there's been a lot of discussion going on within said community. Some of us have talked about what can be done to make Nelsonville better. And one of those things was more citizen involvement, which is nice to see so many people here tonight, and I hope that continues. In light of that, I have a recommendation, since you will be looking for a new city manager, I'm assuming, and that is that an ad hoc committee be appointed, composed of 3 council members and 4 Nelsonville citizens. The purpose of this committee is to create a specific job description for the city manager if one does not already exist. I tried to find one, could not. There may be one, but if not, then one needs to be put together. And a second responsibility for this committee would be to review all applicants for the position, specifically to determine that statements such as education, for example, are true. Those applications which meet the requirements of the position and are proven to be truthful would then be forwarded to the council for their consideration and interview process. Using this approach would greatly reduce the risk of hiring individuals who lied on the application as we have all discovered, was the fact about a former police chief's supposed college degree. Ideally, with more citizen involvement, city government operations would become more transparent. This is a small step in that direction. Obviously, you have to meet an executive session on a number of issues. We don't know what goes on in those issues and what decisions usually are made from those. One of the things that this committee could also help with is policy change, such as revising the handbook, perhaps. You talked about hiring an HR department. We could look more at hiring policies such as completed background checks and documented reference checks. We could require our officials to have mandatory Ohio Sunshine Law training, and maybe even a mandatory mental health training. As some videos are in existence showing previous city managers jumping out at automobiles, for example, and stopping them while they're driving. That's not probably a good thing. Finally, it might be a good idea for the city to look at the charter. I'm not sure if there is a more recent one than the 1994 version. That's the only one I could find. It still refers to the mayor of Nelsonville. We don't have one. So that's confusing for anyone who wants to find out how this city government functions. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
I just have one clarifying point. Regarding executive sessions, we are only allowed to discuss. We are not allowed to make decisions within executive session. So there are never decisions made during that time frame.
Nor voting.
Nor voting. You're not allowed to do that.
So no decisions are made.
Correct.
You just,
Only discussion.
Only discussion, usually legal and personnel matters.
okay, so who makes decisions then on what you discuss?
We would, if there is something to come to full council from the meeting, sometimes it's just updating about certain potential litigation or situations that we have going on with personnel within the city that we would discuss. That's just updates sometimes. And if we have our legal advisor in there, we would ask, what's legal course or whatever. But then if a decision is to come from that discussion, then we come back out onto the council, get full council, and we have to do it openly. That's how that goes. We cannot actually make decisions in executive session.
You mentioned litigation, for example. When I talk about more transparency in government performance, I know there are a number of lawsuits that the city is facing, but I don't know what they're about, and I'm sure a good number of citizens don't know what they're about, but if we lose them, we have to pay them, right?
Well, I mean, we cannot discuss litigation while it's currently going on. You won't find out about it as the
No, I
public
didn't
until it's
ask-
done.
I'm not asking you to discuss it. I'm simply asking that we know what it's about, who's suing who, and why.
We can't provide that information until it's actually come through the procedure. Once it's finalized is when you'll find out. And yes, there's usually an amount owed, in a court situation, but you as a citizen, if you're not involved in council, you won't know that information until it comes out. I mean, Mr. Toy could probably speak to that more.
Mr. Toy, may I ask you a question? Sorry. If there is a lawsuit filed against the city of Nelsonville in Athens
It's a
County,
public, if there's a lawsuit, and
okay,
it's filed in a court, you can look at that.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, You have a
It's
right to
available
look at
through the
that on a
court.
public docket.
So could that be published?
Well, of course, if it's on a public docket, it can be published, but we're
Well,
not
then,
gonna discuss it.
That's what I'm referring to. I'm not asking for any particulars of litigation.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't advertise it necessarily, but if it's going through the court system, like you said, it's evidently public record at that point. But
Right.
I never discuss, litigation about the city while we're going through it.
No.
If anybody ever asks, I don't
And nor
know.
would
so.
you be expected to, sir.
Okay,
But
okay.
I'm under the impression there's somewhat 15 lawsuits perhaps at the moment.
There's
10? 5?
I don't
As a tax-paying citizen whose money may have to go to payee, I would be interested in
Sure.
knowing what the lawsuits are for and what the amount is for. And that would all be, as Mr. Toy says, in that,
Around the court
And
docket,
information
that's what I would tell you to
from-
do, look at the court docket.
I'm sorry, sir?
You have to look at the court docket.
Okay, so if it's available, then could you not, as a council, publish that somewhere and on the?
I'm not gonna tell you to publish it.
No.
It's on a court docket. If you wanna look at it, you can look at it at home on your computer or on your phone.
Not,
So that's gonna be
So in
against
other
my.
words-
Sorry, I'm following his advice
Yeah,
on this
my
one. I don't
advice
know how
is,
to
if
handle
you want
that.
to see
so.
a court document, we'll go to the court record. We're not gonna talk about it. And some of those we don't even need to deal with personally.
That's true.
A lot of
We have
direct
insurance companies that deal with that.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess that's gonna be me. My name's John Miller. I live at 111 Mill Street. I'm having trouble with the water coming down off of the backs. And go up around Mill Street, it comes back down around,
Polling alley.
pulling out of there, and coming up over and hitting my driveway. I got a big rut there. After you guys, I say, on my pictures here. You have pictures here if you want to see them. This is my driveway down at the bottom. That's what I'm seeing. I got a big rut there and it's tearing my car up. And I don't like to know how we're gonna fix that. It starts at the top pictures at the top. I like to know how the city's gonna fix that.
Well, I
Talk
can't,
about water.
I can't tell you how we're gonna fix it, but I can tell you that I will have our street guys go up and take a look at it. And then
I like
they
to
will-
have it looked at because it's time putting a bigger and bigger rut at the bottom picture there. You can see the bottom of the pictures there. Putting a bigger and bigger rut in my driveway.
Okay, well, you came to the right place. So Mr. Cohen is here tonight and he has just been made aware of it.
All right, I like to have that fixed.
We'll have to be taking a look at that for you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, moving on to business and organizational comments. I don't believe we have anything. Let's let, we have an update for, we'll let Mr. Betts do his, you have something you need to address us about?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll let you go.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael Betts, our sewer
Yeah.
plant project.
So, good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to just say it's good to see you. I haven't been here in a little while. Michael Betts with PLZ. You have three pieces of legislation on your agenda, and so I'm here to answer any questions about that. So I'll hang out until those come forth, and I'll just address those at that time. Further, I have a couple other items to discuss. The first of which is the downtown revitalization, what I call Washington Street section. I know the city submitted a application to the Appalachian Regional Grant with the Survivor Advocacy Outreach Program. You did one this not long ago. Now that program requires that plans be that the project be shovel ready in 90 days. Now, that's a very tall order, essentially. So I wanted to address council and find out if you want DLZ to prepare an agreement, design services for that. And I've worked with the city manager to kind of strategize on how to do that. And that would be with a very basic set of plans, not full-blown survey and detailed design that we normally do, but a fast-paced, indicate work limits for certain items of work, the stamped concrete sidewalk and streetlights of this fashion, and the other sections that actually get curb and gutter and that kind of replacement. Something that can be done in a very short order and get a contractor to bid it, so that you can maintain that 90-day shovel ready. That'd be the next step if that is funded. So,
Do you like to do a motion to allow him to do that?
Or we have to pass the legislation. That's what the legislation.
So back when we did the first one, right, the downtown vitalization.
Yeah.
Wasn't there plans already done up that we could reference?
well, that's very.
That went down Washington, and then when they underestimated the project, the whole scope got pushed back to certain areas, but I mean, I think that the original set of plans for downtown vitalization had sidewalks going all the way down Columbus and Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
That very well could be. That was another consultant, those plans. Yes, IBI, so I can't speak to details. But based on my knowledge, that all sounds pretty correct. And one of the caveats that I kind of built into this plan was that we would reference those details from those plans, because we want to do, we want to extend the work that's already done. So I would highly advise locating those and seeing what is done and if they're useful.
What we can do on that legislation tonight, if, since, there's no need for a suspension of the rules on this, so if we vote on it tonight, if we find those plans and that work's been done and we don't need to spend the money, then we can, that legislation can just die at the second reading.
Well, I mean, they'll have to be redone, they can reference those, because they'll have to have their engineering.
If they can even find them.
Oh, they will have to be redone?
Yeah.
Will the cost be would it be better on price for us if they?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because at that point, it's cut and paste and they can stamp their own.
And I don't know what areas it covers or not, but I would.
I do remember that they had the sidewalks, it had the curbing, it had all of that. So, but they, like I said, they scaled it back to, who was that group? I can't think of the name of the group right now, but, they scaled it back because they said it should cost this, and then it cost them a lot more, so they scaled the project back. I don't know where those plans would be.
So that's item 4 on the.
Shelley Sands. Right now.
And we might be able to get those from ODOT.
There you go. ODOT, Shelley Sands might have. So I think they were the contract to the original
Yeah, they were.
portion.
One I recall. So again, another item outside the 3 legislation pieces, Phase 4 sewer project. So we applied to the EPA for principal forgiveness, their term for grant money. And the city was awarded, you were put on the list to receive 100% principal forgiveness for the design of the Phase 4 sewer project. This list just came out just before Christmas. That included the unsewered areas of Scenic Lane just outside the city, the Riverside Drive area that's unsewered, and replacement of the force main up over Mason City Hill, whatever it is, along with a failing sewer out on Scott Street. And so with the Scenic Lane portion of that project will require essentially release of that area by the county for the city to be able to serve that. So if you want to proceed with that project and take advantage of those grant funds, I would recommend determining if those residents in that area are in support of the project and desire to have the sewer. The problem is that should happen pretty quick. The EPA was asking us, is this we're gonna have an agreement in January, and I told them no. At the earliest, it would be February. That we'd be able to send them something. And and the reason I'm saying that, they're on an annual cycle, so it'll take, getting it in and staying.
Now, would it be 100% forgiveness? Would it be, just to clarify, would it be complete hookup and everything?
Now,
That's the question that's gonna be asked.
so the first, well, okay, let me start by clarifying. The first, is just principal forgiveness for the design,
Right. for the
not
design.
construction or anything. But that sets you up for, the next phase, which would be construction. Personally, I think they would only fund you with principal forgiveness for the design if they want to do it for construction, right?
Right.
So it's a pretty good investment. Traditionally, with the other projects we've got, the new sewer extends a lateral to the customer's property line. And from there, they would install their private portion of that lateral out to the public right of way.
Okay.
So there would be a cost for them for that installation work.
Okay.
So again, just want to gauge, the desire to move forward with that. And if so, we'd have to kind of, again, prepare an agreement and go through the process of getting that approved.
So as far as the scenic lane goes, what's that look like as far as what we would send to them? To say we go out there and 75% of them support it. So we send a letter, we send, how does that go?
Well, you could send a letter. There's not a large number. Forgive me, I'm guessing here, going by memory, 25 to 30 residents.
Right.
So a letter's not, I could help draft a letter. It would be pretty easy to explain what the project entails and what it would do, and offer them public sewer. From there, maybe a public meeting for those specifics. With the Nelsonville project, it got to the point where we had public meetings before the disinterest, if you will, was known. And I wouldn't want to get that far again and not have that. Sure. Have that known. But I'd be happy to assist anyone in getting a letter prepared to send them, or
I think that's a great first step.
Now, do you know if that'll be a gravity fed or forced?
it's a combination. It's gravity for the majority of it, but there's a couple that we had to put grinder pumps in that's to serve. It's too expensive to get gravity.
Right.
On there.
Because their hookup would be
Different.
different
Yeah.
and their cost would be different.
Yeah.
Gravity versus.
Yeah. And we have a precedent with the phase 1 sewer project. It had the same scenario where there was some gravity and a few grinder pumps.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't we, on those individuals in that grouping, didn't we incorporate their tap fee in our expense? So like they didn't have to pay for that, but they only had to pay for a permit for our electrician plumber to go and inspect. For an inspection fee.
The tap fees were not, the one funding source did not allow for tap fees to be charged for those projects, so it's federally funded. But the grinder pumps, they did require an electrician to go inspect them, to make sure it was ready before you put it in and put it in operation. And in fact, with the gravity laterals, we do that too. We make sure they're pressure tested. It was just a different level of inspection that was required.
Sure. So we could do that potentially with this project too, incorporate that. The city wouldn't have to charge tap fees for that initial.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. And then I think the health department offers funds on an annual basis as part of their budget to help people that have septic systems. By law, you're supposed to crush them and everything, it's supposed to be done in a specific way. The health department has a bucket of money for that every year. It's reappropriated every year. I think it's on a first come first served basis for that money, but so it wouldn't necessarily be an expense for them either to do that if they apply for that.
Yep, absolutely. Outside the legislation, that's the two items.
I've got a question. Would that project also include Diamond Brick Road, which I would refer to as Buckeye Street?
Yes, it actually should, because by Dana's Tire there.
Yeah. Cause there's a house there, there's.
Right, just past the roundabout.
Just past the roundabout.
Once-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. Everything from the roundabout out to the senior
Okay.
land little circle there. Yeah.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir.
And I'll, of course, stick around for legislation in case anything else. Thank you.
All right.
So I guess the other thing is, where Old Murray's Landing was, would that then be able to be tied into the sewer?
Should be.
I don't even know, where is the old marina? Isn't it where, isn't
Oh,
it
that's
always?
where the old-
No, it's Murray's Landing, yeah, I mean.
The old fruit market.
There used to be, the old flea market, old VFW.
It's right there at the roundabout.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically everything,
There is a sewer on the property. I guess so you guys would take it from that point forward.
on, so
On
you're,
701 West Washington, there is a
oh,
sewer.
I don't know, that would be after, we'd probably have to discuss it at that point, if we were to continue to go out there. We would put that as part of the project. If there's already sewer available there that can be tapped into though, that's what you're saying, it's already available?
That's where the line would be extended out.
From the end of the line there, yes, it would be extended out too.
All right. We're moving on to committee discussions. We didn't have any over the holidays, did we? Okay.
We didn't have any. I am planning just and wanted to add a little bit of transparency on calling a planning and development committee sometime this month to begin further discussion around SOPEC. So when they came and shared with us, it was really helpful. They were talking about a spring ballot vote. I'm not planning on pursuing that. I don't think that this body is going to pursue a spring ballot initiative, but we are going to continue to investigate the possibility of a fall ballot initiative. And so there'll be plenty of opportunities for public input as we explore that. But that is something that will be happening in the OB meeting to discuss that further. Yep.
All right. Department updates. You up? No. Jason?
I didn't have anything this time. It wasn't on meeting.
Okay.
It was police and code.
Recent code.
I've got a couple of nothing extravagant. So we have, I made the recommendation in lieu of recent events to rescind the resignation of Greg Chilcote and have senior firefighter Greg Chilcote back on the active roster of the fire department. The council just needs to pass an ordinance to not accept his resignation. Get him back. And I also have recommendation letter to KJ for the approval of bringing Dylan Burson back on the part-time roster. He voluntarily stepped down. And he wants to come back to the active roster.
And this is, you want Dylan to come back? That's what you want? Is there, Eric, do you have any objections to that?
I recommend that.
Well, if we have to pass legislation for Drake, I would say that should go to fire, police and fire, and then
Yeah.
from committee
That has
to
to
the
be
next council
legislation.
member, then.
Yes, but yeah, however.
You'll have to, so again, because we have an issue with legislation on timing. So the next meeting is gonna be the 23rd, which means the police and fire meeting will have to be and legislation, to Bob's office by the 18th. Correct, Wednesday, we're still doing Wednesday, so it gets to
Wednesday
Susan on time,
yes.
so Susan's not working Sundays.
Yes. It has to be there by Wednesday. I will. Okay. But we can do the Dylan Burson thing, I guess. So we have agreements between the fire chief and the acting city manager. I have a motion to appoint Dylan Burson to a part-time firefighter position, back on the active roster and returning to his part-time position.
You need a motion?
I need him.
So moved.
Are these conditional when we do them part-time, for part-time? That's not a conditional thing, right? Because it's just.
No, he retains the seniority from his previous position.
All right, we got the motion. It's moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
You give Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Duffy?
Yes. All All right. Anything else?
No, that's great.
Okay. All right. Moving on to legislation. First reading of ordinance 1.
Do we have to amend the agenda to have that legislation?
Oh, yes, we do. We need to amend the agenda to add ordinance, to include ordinance 2-23, 3-23, and 4-23.
So
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
yes.
Mr. Childs.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Sherman.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 1-23, need someone to introduce it, please?
I will.
Thank you.
An ordinance approving change order 4 for the 2020 water system improvement water line contract and authorizing the city manager to sign and execute said contract change order and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Nelsonville has entered into a contract 2020 water system improvements water line contract. Whereas the purpose of the change order is to make adjustments to the final contract price based on actual installed quantities as shown in Exhibit A. 1. Whereas the change will increase the contract price by $6,752 and is summarized as attached in Exhibit 1. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The City of Nelsonville hereby approves change order 4 for the 2020 water systems improvement water line contract as described in Exhibit 1. The contract price will be increased by a sum of $6,752. The city manager shall have the authority to enter into, accept, and or authorize the contract change order for the water system improvement meters contract as shown in Exhibit 1. This ordinance is being passed as an emergency measure pursuant to ORC 731.30, Article 4, Sections 4.09 through 4.11, as an emergency in the operation of the city government and is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, moral, or welfare of the city. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption. Duly enacted by council on first reading under suspension of the rules the 9th day of January 2023.
Okay. Are we going to suspend the rules?
Yeah. we need to
Okay,
just
all right.
change it.
Any council discussion on this matter? Motion to suspend?
Second.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
You gonna give him that one?
I gave it last one.
Yeah, okay, you get that one. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes. All right, moving on, we're going to ordinance 02-23. Need someone to introduce it, please.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you.
An ordinance approving wastewater treatment plant phase 2 change order 5 for the Nelsonville Regional Collection System project and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Nelsonville has entered into a contract phase 2 wastewater treatment plant, whereas additional charges to the contract are recommended in order to complete the contract. Whereas this will be change order 5 for the project. Whereas the change will increase the contract price by $35,892.17 and is summarized as attached in Exhibit 1. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The City of Nelsonville hereby approves change order 5 for the phase 2 wastewater treatment plant contract as described in Exhibit 1, attached hereto and incorporated into this ordinance as if rewritten fully within. The contract price will be increased by a sum of $35,000 $892.17. The change includes the following: nitro quote for additional soffit gable work to wrap rafters and beams, and for the electrician to move the conduit per attached Kirk Brothers Company Incorporated change order request number 13. An additional $33,361.53. Kirk Brothers has been requested to provide a quote to add a French drain on the north side of the property per attached Kirk Brothers Company Incorporated change order number 15. That's an additional $2,530.64. The city manager shall have the authority to enter into, accept, and/or authorize the contract change order for Phase 2 wastewater treatment plant contract as shown in Exhibit 1. This ordinance is being passed as an emergency measure pursuant to ORC 731.30, Article 4, Section 4.09 through 4.11, as an emergency in the operation of the city government and is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, morals, or welfare of the city. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption. Duly enacted by council on first reading under suspension of the rules the 9th day of January, 2023.
Okay. Any council discussion on said matter? Motion to suspend?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Childs,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second that.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Childs,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
That take care of our clerk. All right, ordinance 3-23, I need someone to introduce it, please.
I will.
Thank you.
and ordinance approving a professional services agreement for the Small Cities Paving Project and authorizing the city manager to enter into said agreement and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Nelsonville is anticipating paving Canal Street and Borough Boulevard in a project that amounts to $245,900. Whereas the city needs to approve and enter into the professional services agreement, Small City Paving Project, APH-CR33/CR178, PID 116910, attached as Exhibit 1. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city hereby approves the professional services agreement, Small Cities Paving Project, APH-CR33/CR178, PID 116910, attached as Exhibit 1. The city manager is hereby authorized to sign and enter into the professional services agreement, Small Cities Paving Project, APH-CR33/CR178, PID 116910, attached and incorporated by reference to this ordinance as Exhibit 1. Duly enacted by council on the 23rd day of January 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Ordinance 4-23, need someone to introduce it, please.
I'll introduce.
Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements for special prosecution cases upon city council approval and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Nelsonville occasionally needs to hire a special prosecutor on occasion due to facts and circumstances of certain cases. Whereas the city manager needs authority to enter into agreements when a special prosecutor is necessary. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city of Nelsonville hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into necessary special prosecution contracts upon approval of city council. This ordinance is being passed as an emergency measure pursuant to ORC 731.30, Article 4, Sections 4.09 through 4.11, as an emergency in the operation of the city government and is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, moral, or welfare of the city. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption. Duly enacted by council on first reading under suspension of the rules the 9th day of January 2023.
Okay, any council discussion on said matter? Motion to suspend?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second?
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. President, I recommend that we take Mr. Toy's recommendation for the special prosecutor for the one case, and then that's his recommendation of Marcus McCartney for the ongoing city prosecutor.
I second that. I agree. So the motion is on the floor. Call the roll.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes. Also like to make a motion to accept Mr. Scott Frank's resignation. Effective Friday at 3:39 p.m.
Second.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes. And also a motion to appoint KJ as temporary acting city manager.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Okay. Acting city manager has he has found us a police clerk.
Yes, I'd like to recommend Brianna Witterman as the police mayor's court clerk. She's a dispatcher at Hocking College now, along with another clerical job at an apartment site, I believe. I think she'll be a great asset to the PD in the city of Nelsonville. She plans to stay here for, a long time. She loves the city and has all the qualifications to be a great clerk.
Okay. So based on Mr. CJ Tracy's recommendation to hire, what's her name? Brianna Wilderman as the police clerk and the mayor's court clerk combination.
Yes. One motion.
Yes.
So moved.
Oh, thank you.
We have a second.
We're canceled. Yeah. Okay, good. Call on it. I don't have a second.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Clement?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Mr. Booth?
Mr. Booth?
No. Okay, all
I have a
right.
question. I don't know if it's appropriate.
Go ahead.
I'm Bernie Roll. Is it appropriate the day that somebody's nominated as the acting city manager to hire somebody the very minute later?
Yes, he assumes full position of that, he assumes.
But you're hiring, you're making hiring decisions for somebody that's gonna be filling this role, hopefully in a relatively short timeframe.
Right.
Now, that person has to live with the
I see your point.
decision that the acting manager's making. Is this a,
But he's also the acting police chief, and has been for quite some time.
right? Well,
I see your point.
I'm just saying, it doesn't seem a logical decision 30 seconds after he's been appointed.
We still have a vacant position
Right,
that
but
needs to be filled.
you're expecting a city manager to step in, kind of evaluate the team that he has.
Actually, it kind of happened with the last city manager when he was hired. The day that that happened, the door was being kicked in over here, and it was kind of one of those things. You kind of have to learn on the fly.
Sir, if I may interject.
It's kind of how, it's just the reality of how sometimes it works out. So the day that you start is when a huge investigation and, the city goes under a lot of scrutiny all in one day, and you have to kind of adapt and move on. So unfortunately for Mr. Tracy, he's in that position today.
Pursuant to 5.03 of the charter, page 4.
Yeah.
And the third paragraph there, they can do that. It's a temporary acting position until a full city manager gets in.
So, I'm sorry, I lost the vote. Does this mean that this person did not get hired?
Correct.
Thank you.
He's an acting city manager.
No, I understand that. That wasn't what I was asking.
Oh, that person. Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that's what
Okay,
it
thank
is.
you.
Yes, I understand that according to the charter,
Okay.
the police chief takes over. Yes, I get it.
Were applications filled out yet, or did you just pick somebody?
There's been several applications filled out. The job's been posted.
And already background checks and things done?
Yeah.
You guys do fingerprints?
That's part of the background.
Okay. Good to the order. Mr. Sherman?
I have nothing.
Mr. Booth?
I have nothing to say.
Mr. Smith?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Clement? Mr. Taylor? Mr. Sparks? Or Childs? God, I have a friend named
Nothing from me.
Okay, I have something. So, bear with me. Reading is not my strong suit. So anyway, the past 2 years for this city has brought change, growth, strength, and adversity. There have been several people who have come and gone, and many still a part of the city that have helped us reach this pivotal moment. I hope we can all focus on the positive and learn from the difficulties that we have faced and move forward in 2023 and years to come. There's not one person or one act that should define who we are as a community. Instead, we need to learn from our mistakes and grow with our successes. Continue to take pride in our hometown, support one another, and get involved and make projects successful. Let's try and not use social media as a platform to attack one another. Instead, let's find the good in our neighbor. Differences of opinion do not have to become attacks. Learning to agree to disagree, taking the time to allow someone to explain their position, and giving each other the benefit of the doubt is the best way for us to grow and prosper. We choose to live here. We should choose to make it great. When someone is speaking negative, help them find the positive and remind them that our attitudes and commitment are what will make the difference. It is my intention to live by my words, and I challenge each of you to do the same. And remember, when one of us start to head away from this path, give a gentle reminder and encouragement to do better and to be better. I thank you. With that, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.